Hello.
Hello. Welcome everybody here, and a huge shout out to everybody. Who's one of our regular listeners. This is the Build and Grow with Real Estate Show. My name is Judah Hoover, and that guy right over there is Josh Weidman. I am a realtor and a longtime real estate investor. Josh is a hard money lender and a longtime real estate investor. So we not only are people who speak intelligently from the perspective of people who are service providers to the real estate investing industry, but we are active real estate investors ourselves. So yeah, and we're also always sharing tips and information with each other on air and off the air, and it is great to be riding with you, Home Slice. I'm loving this.
It's great to be here. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of texting on Facebook. No big deal.
Right.
I what the heck am I trying to say? So very, very interesting topic today.
So Josh texted me when we were talking about doing this show, and he's like, hey, so I'm thinking about one of the things that we should talk about is the difference between doing a 30-year mortgage and a 15-year mortgage, and why a 15-year mortgage is so much better for buy and hold rentals. Do you want to talk about that? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about that. It's just one small problem. I totally and completely disagree with
you. Absolutely. So the nice thing about this is that I brought my gloves today. So I'm ready to rock and roll. Right? Like right before we went live, I had to run over and check them.
Dude, that's great.
I'm wondering if we didn't get ghosted again by Facebook. I think we might have.
Nice.
Regardless, all right, let's rock and roll here. If you're seeing this thing live, awesome. Chime in. We want to talk to you. If you're not, hey, Facebook hates us. No big deal. All right. So today's episode is going to be about the buying a 15-year note, or excuse me, buying a house with a 15-year note versus a 30-year note. My opinion is that I think your best option. Honestly, I think it's a 30-year note. I think it's a 15-year note, as opposed to a 30-year. Gee whiz! My opinion is a 15-year note. Judah's opinion is a 30-year note, and we're gonna see why. Right? That's it.
Yep.
Okay. So let's see what we got here. Boom. All right. So there's a couple things. Obviously, I stacked the deck on my side here.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a classic example of. He that tells the story rules society.
The victors go the spoils, right? So, on my take on things, right? A 15-year note, number one, you're going to get a lower interest rate. You know, the playing field's not even. Banks are going to offer you better rates for less time. That's the first thing. Second thing, there's faster equity growth. You know, your spread, your margin in that property is going to get bigger. Your equity spread in that property is going to get bigger faster, because all these amortized loans, the front end of the mortgage is piled high with interest, right? And then the tail end of the payments pay back the loan. So that's that. And then what? There's less interest over the life of the loan. It's shorter. It's because
it's shorter, and it's also a lower interest rate to begin with. So for two reasons, your total principal or your total interest payback is going to be less. Correct.
That's right. One of the downsides, though, definitely lower monthly cash flow. Right?
Yeah.
No question.
I'm gonna fight you hard on your last point here, which is higher returns over time. I think that if you buy a rental property and hold it for 20 or 30 years, that might be true. But if you're interested in buying more than a rental property, that utilizing leverage appropriately will end up being better than a 30-year note. Also, I want to also slightly push back on your lower interest rate caveat right here.
Yeah.
So you are correct. With a 30-year mortgage, you will have a higher interest rate, and a 15-year will be lower. So with the 15-year interest rate, you're going to have a a rate that is extremely close to zero, and on a 30-year, you're going to have an interest rate that's basically zero.
It's
so
real,
those
really close. Yeah, no, and look, I want to put all the cards on the table because here's what the basis for my argument. Okay, a couple things. My biggest argument of why I believe a 15-year mortgage is better than a 30-year is because very specifically, because the impact of making $200 a month on a rental property is not very much, as opposed to making $300 a month on a rental property, not very much. But when you pay that thing off and all of a sudden you go from making $200 or $300 a month to making, $2,400 a month or $2,000 a month overnight, it's a game changer. You get much closer to the point where you are out of the rat race and a big chunk of your income is replaced. And I guess that's my argument. So let's
address something here really quickly that Steve said. So Steve, I am not going to be in the studio tomorrow, and also we took Monday off, so we have no guests this week, or no guests today. Also, next week we have a number of guests lined up. Josh, by the way, my boy Ari just bought an 8-unit property, just bought a 9-unit property, closed today on both of those. He's also looking at like a 45-unit scattered site portfolio. I think that he'd be somebody who would be really good to have on the show. And I have 2 or 3 other people who I think we need to have on the show as guests. So,
Steve, we're going to throw a curveball out there. I mean, look, man, we're just trying to make sure that nobody's coming to the show just expecting a handout. Right. You got to work for it, man. You got to work for it. All right. So we're going to start with our sample property. So for this example, I think it's important to use a bread and butter property. And I'm not talking about a C grade property that may or may not appreciate. I'm not talking about the $100,000 property that when the market goes down, it's worth $10.
Right.
I'm talking about the median home price property that could sell retail. You're buying it in darn good condition, if not improved condition, at a slight discount. Right. In this case, we're talking $15,000 under market value. A 7% discount. That's pretty reasonable in a normal market. Today's market, hey, maybe on a 210 property.
Not overpaying. Not overpaying is buying at a discount in this market.
Yeah. So, all right. So here's the foundation here. It's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. This is not your 3-1, Cracker Jack box, right? This is a decent house that you could retail if you wanted to, but you're buying it almost at retail. Purchase price $195, renter rate $2,000 a month. Right near that 1% rule that we went over in a prior show, right? So your day one expenses are about $6,700, and you're financing $160.
Those you're talking about like closing costs and things like that.
No, day one
about taxes and
annual management cost,
annual taxes and insurance,
operating expenses. Exactly. Actually, I screwed this up. It's not 168,000 finances. It's 80%. It ends up being like 154,000, something like that. It's on a future slide. But look, even I make mistakes sometimes, Judah. Even I make mistakes sometimes. All right. So your total cash to purchase. This is a big one here. It's 20% down, but it ends up being about 25%.
Because of the closing costs and things like that. Even when you purchase, even though the seller ends up paying a lot of the closing costs, you're still going to have some closing costs in your purchase. Yep.
All right.
Prepaid, setting up your escrow account, those kinds of things. Yep.
Exactly. All right. So now you got your 15-year mortgage, right? On a 15-year note, you're going to pay 2.875% as of today. Cool. On a 30-year note, it's 3.06%. So it's a smidge over nothing versus virtually nothing.
Correct.
Right. I included finance fees of $13.90, and I have that broken out in notes somewhere. If you have my spreadsheet, if you don't, email me. I'll send you the spreadsheet with notes on all that crap. But figure 1% for origination fee and some other costs. All right. Your monthly mortgage principal and interest payment is going to be about $1,000 a month, just over $1,000 a month for a 15-year mortgage, versus a little over half of that. $662 on a 30-year note, which is significant to the bottom line. It's a $300-400 a month difference here. But let's see what this looks like on cash flow. All right. Here's what I thought was kind of cool. We got a 7.39% cash on cash return on a 15-year note, which isn't terrible. If you're just looking at cash flow, it's just okay, right? On a 30-year note, 17%. So it's 10% higher. I know, Judah. I know. I can see the condescension in your face. But here's the thing. You only have to deal with this for a short period of time, because your cash on cash return, let's go back here. I want to look at this. Your cash on cash return in year 16, it's going to jump almost $13,000. I made this exceptionally small, so you'd have to squint into the camera.
Yep, that's the what I'm doing.
All right. Almost $13,000 jump.
Go back. What's the difference in the payments here?
It's about $400 a month.
I want to actually come up with
Actually, it is $400. It's $405 a month.
$405 a month. Great. Okay, keep going.
Okay, $405 a month. In year 16, though, it flips.
Right.
Now we're $680 a month more to our bottom line.
Right.
And that's where the magic happens.
Right.
Because now you own the property free and clear. You got to pay the taxes every year. You got to do this. You got to do that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, your net cash flow is, I mean, it's what? It's going to be close to 35% cash on cash return after, after the 15-year mortgage. All right. So here's our 30-year note. But here's what's really astounding. So annual, I had some assumptions, right? Annual appreciation 3%, yearly rental increase 3%, yearly expense increase 3%. So 3% increases across the board.
Right.
Here's what always boggles my mind with leveraged real estate. Look at the total return for both of these. Over a 30-year period, you're making $1 million.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
On a $45,000 investment.
Right.
It averages, I mean, you're talking worst case scenario, 70% return on investment as opposed to 73%. Now, Judy, you're so engaged here. You're as engaged as our audience. What the heck, man?
Well, I am waiting patiently because here's because I have a rebuttal.
You got the stage.
My
Go
friend.
for it.
I have a rebuttal for you. So I just half the reason I was being quiet there was because I pulled up calculator.net and I plugged in a zero. Hold on, is there a way that I can share my screen? There is a way that I can share my screen.
Of course not, man. I'm not gonna.
Look at me taking control. Hold on here, buddy.
Holy mackerel! I'm putting a freeze.
Look at this. Boom. All right. So if we start out with a $0 investment right here, and after 15 years at an 8% return of $400 a month, we will have a total balance of $135,000 in a side separate escrow account.
Okay.
That will be more. Now I'd have to run the amortization schedule as well. So you would have $135,000 in a side escrow account. I'm not sure, but these mortgages that start out at like, what do we say, like 140, 150, they're going to be paid down to like $50,000 or $75,000. So after 15 years, yes, you will still have a mortgage, but your side account invested safely and conservatively in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. You know, we're not talking about going out there and doing anything crazy or silly or stupid, like you know,
Go back. We
investing
need to
in.
finish this conversation. Go back. Because if we're gonna say that all of these borrowers are gonna pull side bets, right?
Well, that's the point. Is you're not taking $400 a month and burning it. You know what I mean?
Exactly
Like you're.
what's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen, and you know it, and I know it. If you take that $400, take it for 30 years.
Right.
Roll it for 30 years. Because that's
400 for 30 years.
Yeah, 30 years.
Well, that's you know.
I'm going to need to write this down. I'm going to need to write this down because we're going to have to get it. We're getting into complex math.
But the comparison is only there for the first. So what you're going to say is what happens if starting with year 15,
right?
You start adding. All right, so that's good. So and we'll keep the balance the same at 8%. So that's 500.
But by the way, 8% is insane. It's not going to happen. But okay, we'll give it 8%. You're not going to get an 8% return over 30 years, but it's not going to happen.
You don't think? Okay, for the sake of this argument, we'll keep it the same at 8%.
As long as it's the same, sure. So now
563,000. All right. So you want to go back down to 15%, and what was the month or 15 years, and what was the so it would be the total payment of your first mortgage?
It's what's 12,800? It's 1,000 and 1,075. So $675. $675 additional contribution.
No, it'd be more than that. It's the $1,000. It's the whole payment, because after 15 years, you can start investing the whole payment.
Yeah, but that's not what we presume. We're talking about the arbitrage.
Okay,
$400 is the arbitrage, right? And then it flips in $675. So you're talking about a $300,000 difference. Holy cow, Judah! You might have just trumped my argument.
I don't think this is right, because once this is free and clear, you have the whole payment to invest. For the last 15
we weren't investing the whole payment. We were
just investing the difference.
The difference between the oh, you're right.
It is. So it's the whole payment. It's 1,000.
You're a math wizard.
What is it? I know.
We lost the audience.
It's a curse I bear.
Completely lost the audience doing math off of the board. You know
what is my what is it? 1,000 and what? I'm trying to see. Show me where that is.
Hold on a second. Just hold your horses. Hold your horses and
this
stop.
Is the problem with doing a live. This is the problem with doing a live show every day, Josh.
I know, right?
1,063?
1067.58.
All right. 1067. I'm still better than you.
360. So it's a $200,000 difference.
I'm still better than you.
I'm going back to my screen. Stop sharing your screen.
All
right. So where's my? Oh, come on.
The bottom line is.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to keep our listeners engaged. We got to keep it on here. They want to see the bottom line.
Right. The bottom line is.
All right.
Judah's right.
So $200,000 difference. Let's go look at the end game here. Okay. It's like $40,000.
Right.
Okay. How many people do you know that are just looking for a pile of money at the end of their life?
So here's the thing. Here's what this allows you to do is if you buy with a 30-year mortgage, right? If you buy with a 30-year mortgage, you have a greater payment disparity between what your expenses are and what your income is. And that allows you to more comfortably buy more real estate, and allows you to invest the difference or save the difference or do something like that, be it in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or additional real estate.
So this is the deal, though. If you're not reinvesting that capital and you are using that to offset your lifestyle, which often happens,
which should not happen. Hopefully, if you are a real estate investor, you are setting that money aside, and you have a whole LLC set up that you are utilizing that money.
Dude,
But the other thing is
what you're trying to say is we should live in a 1-bedroom apartment, the same thing that you moved into when you moved out of your parents' house into that basement apartment that was $650 a month.
when I moved out of my parents' house, I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 other guys. I pulled out the couch every day and slept in the living room.
Dude, I didn't have windows in my apartment until I was out of college.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that I think is important to remember with all of this.
Yeah.
If you have a 15-year mortgage, you have to make a 15-year mortgage payment. If you have a 30-year mortgage, you can make a 15-year mortgage payment or a 30-year mortgage payment, depending on what's going on in your personal life and the property and other things like that. I think if you could do an interest-only payment, you should do interest-only payments, because equity in real estate is debt equity. Let me tell you a quick story, Josh, that I learned myself. When I bought my first rental property at the age of 22, I was like, holy crap, I love this. I want to do more of this. I went out and bought a bunch more rental properties, and I quit my job within 6 months of buying my first rental property. I quit my job within 6 months. And for a year and a half, I did nothing but buy and sell real estate. And what I realized was I was creating a whole lot of equity, but I wasn't creating enough cash flow. What you're talking about is a plan that is going to create a whole lot of equity, but you can't eat equity. Equity doesn't pay the bills, and equity won't buy you groceries.
That's my whole point too. If you make an extra 200, it is my point. So look, real estate, a lot of gurus sell real estate as a get-rich-quick scheme.
Correct.
It's sold the same way that the work at home, make $1 million while you're sitting.
I always say the best way to get rich quick in real estate is sell get-rich-quick courses.
There you go. But I agree with you 100%. Here's the thing, though. Most investors that are successful, they start out making good money, flipping houses, wholesaling deals. And then they realize the real money is in the time. It's in the long term. And it's not in the monthly payments.
Right.
And frankly, it's not in the equity. It's getting to the point where you have a critical mass of equity in properties, whether it's 1 house or 50 houses. You've got a critical mass that allows you to either draw on that equity as cross collateral or refinance and pull out a real chunk. You know, I mean,
a meaningful chunk of money. Yep.
There's an investor in Philadelphia that I know that bought a crap load of really cheap properties at the tax sales, renovated them really well for long-term holds, right? And as the market increased, he was pulling out $2 million a year in refinance through like 50. He had something like 200 or 300 rental units. $2 million a year in refinance. That's tax-free money.
Right.
Every year in refinances. My argument towards a 15-year mortgage is most people don't wait for the second marshmallow. Right. Most people grab that stinking marshmallow, shove it in their mouth, and it's the same reason that the
if Greg Swan was here, he'd be so proud. He talked about that last week with us.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. But like most people, you ever read the book? We were talking about books yesterday. I can't believe I didn't bring this up. The Automatic Millionaire. No. Did you ever read the book?
Nope.
Automatic Millionaire is awesome because it's based on the principle that we all are the kid who eats that marshmallow as quickly as we can. And because of that, you set up processes in your life so that you pay yourself first, which means the money automatically gets deducted the day after you get paid to go into your investment account or go into your retirement account or whatever. You pay off your single family home as quickly as possible, and then you buy another one. And when you buy the other one, now you have then by the time you retire, you have a huge retirement account. You spend everything in your checking account. You always have nothing in your checking account, right? But the money's paying yourself and paying your retirement and paying your investments and all that kind of stuff. It happens as an expense. every month, just like you pay your mortgage, just like you pay your car payment or whatever other payments you have, so that you automatically fall into success. And I guess that's my argument, that like if you are a very highly regimented and have a huge level of self-control, Judah's right. Like the difference is $140,000. I'm sorry, $160,000 in additional revenue if you reinvest that money.
No, if I'm right, if you're right, I'm right. Because what you should be doing is making the extra $400 a month and then having it go into that checking or savings account, or having it go
I
into
agree
that.
with you. That's what I'm
Right.
trying to say. I'm
Right.
saying that if people do that,
Right.
you're right. You're right. A 30-year, like the numbers play out. You beat me. I'm putting my boxing gloves away and I'm done.
So you're saying, so see, I think that what you're talking about is what Dave Ramsey talks about, which is put 20% down on your primary residence and take out a 15-year mortgage and be happy with that. I think, and I agree with that, and I teach Dave Ramsey at my church. I think though that I would like to believe, and I would hope that our average listener has a slightly higher or slightly above average financial IQ and desire to do things differently, and has taken our 10 steps of the first 10 things you're supposed to do when you start in real estate investing. One of them is get your financial house in order, and set up a budget and actually live by that budget. Doesn't mean you're going to hit that budget every month. Doesn't mean that there's not going to be times when you overspend on, the car needs extra repair or whatever, but having a 15-year mortgage doesn't allow for as much wiggle room in the budget, which might make you hate the whole budget altogether and throw the baby out with the bathwater and walk away from real estate investing in total. If you take out a 15-year mortgage, not only is it better in the long run if you save and invest the difference smartly, you also have to remember that you are, in a situation and a position where you are able to have the flexibility. Because I don't know about your life, Josh. I don't know about your life, but my life looks an awful lot like the transmission goes out in the car the exact same time that I need to buy Christmas presents for the kids, at the exact same time my heating bill is the highest it's ever been in the year. You know what I mean? Like
nobody's buying or selling houses. Nobody's closing loans. Nothing.
Right. Yeah. And well, that's the other thing, is I've always sarcastically said December is a dark money sucking pit from which there is no escape. December's rough in this business. Always has been.
Actually, that could be a totally different show. Is how? All right. I forget this book. Doggone it. There's actually, I think it's Warren Buffett's book where he talks about Snowball, and he's got a couple stories about a guy that worked for the post office. He decided when he was like 16 or 17 that he was going to live off of 30% of his income and invest the rest. And this is like pre-tax, so you figure a third goes away, and he invests a third. And over the course of his lifetime, he amassed a fortune of like $17 million, so that by the time he died, and the guy never made over $100,000 a year. It was like very, very predictable. Every month he put money away, every month for a long period of time. I think the biggest takeaway here is the value of time on money. If you look at a 30-year mortgage, yes, ultimately your cash flow is actually less by about $60,000 because of the early payoff. For a 30-year mortgage, it's actually $60,000 less. But if you apply that money over the additional 15 years and get an interest rate return on that money, you're making a ton more.
Yeah, look at what my boy Steve Carney talks about here. Richest man in Babylon.
Oh, I know.
Everyone knows about Richest Man in Babylon because we talked about it yesterday, and hopefully I started reading it. By the way, Josh, I read the first 2 chapters of The Go-Getter to my kids yesterday. So,
you know what's interesting? I love how kids absorb things.
Yeah.
So I started adding in. I used to read a lot of poetry. I really am a big fan of, especially more contemporary stuff, but I have boxes of books, like boxes of poetry books. So I pulled one out and I'm like, man, this is really good. And it's right before I'm like doing my bedtime routine with my kids where I read and all that stuff. It's like, I'm going to throw this in there. It's amazing how kids absorb new ideas and new things so
Right.
much more readily than adults do. Because I mean, I've done this where I read the first 2 pages of a book and I'm like, yeah, it's not for me. I'm done. Move on. Right.
Right.
Like, but the yeah, I think that's awesome. Yeah, fantastic.
That's basically our show. Josh, you're going to be back here tomorrow. I unfortunately have to I have a family funeral to be at, and but we will be back, Adam. I'll be back here with you on Monday, and we are going to have a lot of guests the next 30 days. Look for a higher than average number of guests
We
coming
got
in
some
and
big
talking with
announcements
us.
coming here. We
We
got
do
some
have
really big announcements.
Yes,
Yeah, some really cool things. Yeah, big shout out to Noah Martin, Bayshore Travis, and Jeff Kennedy. Thanks for the love, guys. If you enjoyed the show today, make sure you like and share. I will be back here tomorrow, potentially with a guest. We're going to be doing the news of the week. There's a lot to talk about. Elon Musk has been active this week, so we're going to be back with our Musk segment tomorrow. Until then, have a great day. Go make lots of money, and we'll see you back tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Take care.
See everybody.